rejection, we said last week, was the dismissing or refusal of a purpose or a proposal. The rejection is when you refuse a proposal from someone or something, a non-acceptance, a declining, a turning down, or refusing something. Somebody say rejection. Yeah, because that sounds just like what we do when we're having a relationship with God. We're good with God until God puts up expectation. Let me just preach about myself. I'm good with God till God started showing me in the Word what I should and shouldn't do. And then I thought about how those things made me feel, that he said, I'm going to have to change. I didn't want to change those things because at that time, the narrator of my life was my flesh. Yes, I didn't want to go against my flesh because I didn't want to feel bad. But in order to get better, I had to do better. In order to do better, you have to change some things. You have to shift things in your life. You can't just go around and say, I'm better today. People get up, I'm better today. I changed all my plans. I changed my New Year's resolution. It wasn't a resolution, baby. Don't change the resolution. Change the commitment, Jesus. Yeah, I don't have to change nothing. I'm changing the wrong thing, Sister Tammy. Don't change the resolution of what God gave you. Change your commitment and watch how God move on the behalf of what he has given you. The Bible says, I've already preordained you. I know you. So God ain't made no mistake. I just got to make sure that I'm truly not rejecting my Father that is in heaven. Now, I understand that a lot of people don't know, but when you don't know better, you don't do better. And when you know better, you do better. That's why you see some people, kids, cuss in front of them. It ain't your kid, so you can amen. But you know other people who kids, whether they 18 or 5, cussing Johnny in front of the parents, and the parents just go on like they ain't heard that, and you sitting there almost in shock. Because it hasn't been told to them that you shouldn't do this. I reject that in my household because I have set a standard. Well, what happens in God's household when he has set a standard? God has set a standard, and he sits there and he has a certain expectation of his children. But his children say they love him and they want to obey him, but they don't want to stand and be suppressed by the standards that God has. So what they do, we opt out and reject the very things that God say we have to have, not understanding, thinking we're going to get by with it, but there's a day coming. Oh, there's a day coming, and that day is called judgment. When the Bible says every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess. There's a day coming when what you do in the dark shall be brought to the marvelous light. Yes, your wife don't know what you're doing when she's not home, but you know what you're doing and who you talking to when she's not home or when you're going out with the guys. That rejection will find you at some point. It's going to hurt you at some point. That rejection, but acceptance is possible. We can be, Andy, accepted by God if we just follow his commandments. Because somebody is saying, what is acceptance? Acceptance is an action of process of being received as an adequate or suitable person to be admitted into a group. Jesus, suitable is what I'm looking at. The term suitable. He said you have to be suitable to be attained in a group. What does suitable mean? You have to meet a standard, a level of expectation to become a part of a group. We don't think about this, Sister Tammy, when we go to church. You know what we think about? I sure hope he preach on prophesy today on prosperity. But the Bible says, what profits a man the whole world and lose his soul? But that's what we want to hear when we go to church. You know why? You know what guides you to church when you're not saved in totality? Your flesh. Now, that don't make sense at all. Then somebody going to say, Pastor got a low IQ. No, because your flesh know exactly what it wants you to hear. Because if you can hear it, You don't even have to believe it, but a seed has been sown that at some point you're going to do it. Jesus Christ, I'm preaching better than I need to be over in Oklahoma somewhere. They'll appreciate rejection over there versus acceptance, because we never really want to analyze ourselves and say to self, you're coming up short. When I became a better father, when I started accessing myself and say, self, you're coming up short. William, you're not being the father you should be. I'm paying the bills. And God said, that's not enough. He ain't saying nothing about pay the bills. He said, feed my sheep. Okay. Feed my sheep. Now you're starting to get somewhere, son. When you start training up your children in the way they should go, then they won't. In the way they should go. When they grow, they won't depart from those ways. It has nothing to do with how many big wheels and how many bikes, how many PlayStations, how many cell phones you buying them. All you doing is really opening up the gateways for Satan, because the Bible declares that God gave Satan rule over the airways. Now, what do we look at the most right now? We're looking at what? Twitter, X, Facebook, and TikTok, and all that. They don't look at Facebook that much no more. They say you got to be 50 and over for Facebook. God got away. But we're looking at all these things that Satan authorized. And you don't even realize it, that when you look at how much time you spend on your phone, and then look at how little time you're working on your vision. But then they want to blame you for why they're not successful. You have rejected yourself. A lot of things Satan don't have to do, you do it for him. That's how much you love him. You do it for Satan. You reject yourself because you refuse to do the hard things in life. In order to be successful at some point, you're going to have to learn to do hard things. You're going to have to learn to overcome. You're going to have to learn to trust God in all your ways and lean not to your own understanding, but in all ways acknowledge him. And he shall what? Direct your path. I got some Bible readers in here today, baby. Trust God and see the salvation, which is a process of God. See the salvation of God. Don't cry. Worship. If I'm going to cry, let me cry out to God in the highest praise of hallelujah. Oh, he didn't do it today, but it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. I got my nephew. He came to church on New Year's Eve service. And God had me to call prayer line. I hadn't had no intention of calling prayer line. He called prayer line. I don't want to call prayer line. God, I'm already tired. Call prayer line. I had to learn to accept that, because I did that once before in our other church. God told me to pray for somebody while we was fasting. I rejected God. That's why you love it, Coach, because I'm going to tell the truth on me. I rejected God because I had prayed that last night of the fast. You tired now. I'm weak. God, I have prayed and all this stuff. I'm tired. And he said, pray for that lady over there. I didn't pray for her. I regret it to this day that she's lost in the world. That's what happens when you reject what God is saying. That you reject what God is saying. You look at everybody else. I ain't going to church because my husband don't go. That's him. I ain't going because my wife don't go. That's her. The kids acting up. Lead them too. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be acceptance or rejection. You're going to be rejected by God or you're going to be accepted by God. Has nothing to do with nobody else. No money, no tax bracket, no automobile. It has everything to do. Did you love me enough and believe in me enough to accept what I say? It's simple. Yeah, you love your wife and she good in bed. Yeah, Johnny, you back home. You love her, but she ain't your God. She ain't your God because men are weak. It's been since Adam. Don't look at me and trip. We weak for certain things. You want to make a man run around in a circle? Put the right things on the grocery list. Go figure. They slow, Riri, but they Maria, but they worth waiting on today. You put the right things on the grocery list, he'll go in debt. Oh, he'll lose this. He'll go in debt for it. We don't have the same sincereness about God. We know of God. We know of him. One of the things I don't like in the churches, I know the Bible says we're strengthened by the testimonies of others, but don't steal their testimony. And come on now. Don't steal the testimony. What do you mean, Pastor, steal the testimony? All you doing is living off Sister Tammy's testimony. And that was fine. Sister Tammy said it so you can be encouraged. But that was her mountain to climb. Now you always think, when are you going to grow up to have your own mountain? When are you going to climb your own mountain? So you can look back and say, look what he brought me through. It's a shame that you sit in the church and you can't look back and say, I have one experience in my life where I can say, but God. Woo! Jesus! But God. I got so many but Gods in my life. But Gods are tattooed all over my spirit, man. But God this and but God that and but God this and but God that. But God did this, but God did that. They said this, but God did this. They said it wouldn't happen, but God showed up. They said I didn't have it, but God said, here you go in abundance. Somebody say, but God. But God. Rejection versus acceptance, as the writer writes. The discrepancy that goes on in this writing is that he's telling other apostles there are two things, two types of things that God looked for in death. And I know that a lot of us are afraid of death. Last week I gave the example of Paul. Paul said, I can't lose either way. But you can't talk like that, man, until you sold out. You, coach, I don't care how much they know you and they know, he coach had said and said, he coach had said, he'd be like, yeah, but that's me. Let me read your autobiography. Let me see how you stayed in the course. Show me where you every fiber in your body told you to quit. But there was one inkling of spirit told you to steadfast. Be steadfast. Unmovable, always abiding in my ability to be accepted by God and not rejected. I refuse to want to be rejected because I know a lot of people are afraid of death, and the Bible tells us rejoice when people die. Sister Danielle, how did we get it twisted? The Bible says rejoice when people die and mourn when people are born. We celebrate when people are born, and we mourn when people die. But God said in the Bible, celebrate. That's why the Jews now, you want to see somebody get out and boogie. The Jews get their boogie on when somebody died. That's why when the rich man told Jesus, I want to ride with you, but let me go bury my father. Let the dead bury the dead. People get that construed. What Jesus said, I know how long it takes Jews to bury. Because they're going to party for 3 days, and I don't have that kind of time. You got to make up your mind now. It ain't that he just had to get home and bury daddy and get back. He know once he got home, they were going to be doing a lot of everything. And I don't have that type of time. Rejection versus acceptance. Watch this here, coach. Here we go. Woody Allen says, I'm not afraid of death. Now, some of you probably don't know Woody Allen. But Woody Allen says, I'm not afraid of death. I just don't want to be there when it happens. I'm not afraid of it. I don't want to be there when it happens because I know how many of y'all think about it, have ever thought about, I wonder how I'm going to die. Just raise your hand, put it down one time. Everybody's hand should have been, everybody at some point has always thought, how am I going? God, how is it going to be? Am I going to be in my sleep? And we all say that. We all say, let us be 85 and the little kids don't grow up and we got grandkids and you've been able to help raise your grandkids. And then when you get 85, at that point, by the time people have to start helping you too much, you say, God, bring me on home. It don't work like that. It doesn't work. Some people are blessed to get there, but a lot of people not, especially a lot of us, especially a lot of black men. Okay, they don't like to hear this, Sister Sarah, but I'm going to preach it anyway. J.K. Rowling, author of Harry Potter, said, to the well-organized mind, death is but the next generation. Ooh. Yeah, this is the author, the woman who wrote Harry Potter. She says, and I'm quoting, to the well-organized mind, death is but the next generation. So much truth to that. To the well-organized mind, to those whose mind is already together, it's just the next step to where you've been working your whole life to get to. You thought you were working your whole life to get that two-car garage and that four-bedroom house, 2.5 baths. Yeah, that's what they wanted, Sister Maria. That's what they lived for, to pay for a 4-bedroom house with 2.5 bathrooms and a 2-car garage. And that's okay. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But that cannot be my first purpose. That can't be the first priority in my life. Your mind has to be conditioned to say, why would I stop here and put all my emphasis on this when there's a next? I'll tell you, you're investing too much in something that's earthly. When the Bible says there's nothing on earth that's good. But I want this. And let me say this, because I don't want you to say that pastor up there just tripping. There's nothing wrong with obtaining nice intangibles. But if you have this type of car and you're in an apartment, what do you really have? If you're not owning land or in a house, why are you praising the car and renting? The only thing we got on this earth that we can have temporarily is land. And it's going to always be taxed. Next question is, do you really ever own your land? Do you really own your land? I like how they do it in Jamaica. What they do, they go and buy the land first, then build later. Because they understand the prevalence of land. We just want somewhere nice to stay. You never think about the king and queen you are. One thing that I know that a lot of our people have rejected is the inability to believe who we really were created to be. Kings and queens. That's one of our weaknesses. Brother Anthony, our race, look at it on TV. Look at it in terms of education. Look at it in the community. We reject ourselves. We don't think we can. We try to put our acceptance into this world, our doing well in this world, in the tennis shoes. Got to have the next pair of Jordans. He's already a wealthy man. You know how much he paid to have those shoes made? That you saved up a check and a half to get? Or let me put it like this, half paid child support this month so you can get them shoes. It's the truth. Sister LaSarah, it's the truth. We want to make sure we go out here and get all this name brand, whatever, and you don't have no trust fund for your kids. You say you love your family, but your actions say you're rejecting your family. Why would you be accepted as a man if God do call you home and you can't still run your house? You know why a lot of people cry at them funerals? They're disappointed that they thought he was more than what he was until they saw that what he left them was really who he was. We're going to have to move to another church, but we're going to go on. We can talk about it somewhere, because a lot of them looking at me like we want to nail him to the cross. But it's the truth. We are rejecting ourselves. Hispanics have come and taken our place, and there's nothing wrong with Hispanics. They just got to come legally. I don't have nothing against no race. Just do it the right way. Just do everything the right way. I had to do everything the right way. When I didn't do everything the right way, I went to jail. So we got to do everything the right way. I believe in the right way. Yeah, I want to be accepted. I don't want to be told what I'm going to have. Yeah, that means I rejected the law or rejected what God is saying in my life. We have to get to that point. Mark Twain said, the fear of death follows from the fear of life. The fear of death follows from the fear of life. A man who lives fully is prepared to die at any time. Johnny, did you hear that? Let me repeat that again for New York in the house. The fear of death follows from the fear of life. A man who lives fully is prepared to die at any time. That's going to take some time to register. I know that's going to take some time. That's like trying to digest chitlins. It's going to take a minute for that to go. But the way you live, if you live in fear, it's going to show in how you serve. Yeah, when you live in fear of totally surrendering yourself to God, it's going to show in your life. You're going to be one of those that's a crowd pleaser and a crowd follower. And you subject yourself to whatever everybody else is doing. And they're over here saying bad things about Christianity, and they're saying this about the church. And you know what you do? You're just taking the undertow takes you right on in there with them because you don't have enough zeal. You don't have enough substance of God in your life. You don't have enough prayer life or word in you to say, I'll stand alone. I'll stand alone. But in your heart, you know, I really do love God, and I really want to serve God. I really want to learn more of God, but I don't want to lose my friends. Are they really friends? Because the Bible says, how can two walk together except they agree? Hot and cold don't mix. He wants you to be hot or cold. Lukewarm, I'll spew you out anyway. He don't care nothing about that. He wants to see, are you committed? Are you at the point to where you're totally engaged in God so that you accept his will? If you don't accept his will, you're rejecting God. Now, in order to accept God's will, you have to be obedient. If you're obedient, then you accept God's will. Then now God works through you. But you have allowed God to do one thing you don't want to be done to you, clean you out. You have to be cleaned out by God before he can dwell. Because he said, I'll dwell in no one clean thing. And if you reject him cleaning you out because you still like the taste of that reefer, you're not ready to be totally committed. And if you're not committed, you're going to be rejected. And if you're rejected, there's going to be judgment. Very simple. Very simple. Sometimes we expect more from others because we're willing to do that much for them. Sometimes we accept more from others because that's what we'll do for them. And it's very discouraging, even heartbreaking, depending on who the friend is, when you see they won't do for you what you were willing to do for them. That's ridiculous. Come on, Sister Tammy, you in the house. She said it already. That's rejection. Rejection of the truth. You thought more of that person than they thought of you. And now you are rejected and feeling bad. I wonder how God feels when he looks at you. Is God rejected? Is he feeling rejected when he look at you and still claim you and say you're still a child of the Most High God, but even though you're not living right, even though you put me on the back burner, even though I know you put tired and fatigue before me, I still love you. I still care about you. Two things that the apostle illustrated that became the argument from the appointment of God concerning man. Number one was, every man must die. Every man must die. When I say man, that's man and woman. Number two, it's terror to the wicked who die in their sin. So every man must die. Point number two, it's wicked for those who have sinned. Because the man who dies that lives right his whole time here and believe in God, the Bible says he dies and moves to a place of comfort. Now I moved to a place of comfort. Feel a lot better. I'm in a better place. I'm in a place where I don't have to worry about pollution. I'm at a place where I don't have to worry because the streets are paved with gold. I don't have to worry about praise and worship being pushed because the people in the sanctuary just came to be entertained. I'm at a place where people are beating me to the altar every morning, singing to an angelical God. What would it be like if everybody in your community was serving God like God should be served? Why do we not want to get there? You have a chance to get there. Choose you this day whom you may serve. It's not that God don't want you. It's that you leave God no choice when you reject him. When you accept him, the floodgates of heaven open. We get it confused, Coach Harrell, because we say the floodgates open because we got our check back. That's not the floodgates of heaven opening. That's a blessing, but that's not the floodgates of heaven because you already worked for that. But now if you did your first fruit offering and then you get an abundance back, way much, now that's different. But you don't cheated and lied and got somebody else's kids over there with you, felt good about it. And then I've learned through doing these polls that most people say that even when they get a child named to the other person, the other person never really give them the money they say they were going to give them. They always say, I came up short. It wasn't quite what H&R Block told me, so I'm going to have to give you this. And you should say, well, you didn't come back and make that suggestion to me when they told you what you were going to get back. You went ahead with it. Goes back to the thing. You think people will do for you what you're willing to do for them. And it's not always like that. Most times it's not like that. When a person has too many friends, I'm concerned. Really. Now, you can have a lot of associates and you can know a lot of people. But when you have too many friends, something wrong. You can't keep up with them. Because that's too many spirits. I always tell them like this. I say, when you at your table and something's wrong, you have to look at who's sitting in what seats at your table. And if you want change in your life, you have to remove some of them seats from the table. And as you move those seats from the table, you'll notice things get lighter on you. Your burden's not as heavy no more. I can see clearly now. I can move now because I moved those seats off from the table. Quit feeding people at your table that ain't putting in. Just for the title of a friendship. That's not a friendship. That's a servant. Well, I ain't going to say servant. That's a slave ship. And you got the wrong people eating at the table with you on a regular. Yeah, giving your whole self to them. It's crazy how we do that. But we always find a way to make sure that we keep those people who are close to us with us, even when they don't mean the same thing to us. Amazing. Who knows? Today may be the day. Today may be the day that you're not righteous, but the day he calls you home. I pray that is not. It could be the day for me that he calls me home today. And I got to do everything I can do to be ready. A fact is, 2 people every second die. 106 people every minute die. 6,400 people everywhere, every hour die. 153,000 people every day die. 56 million people a year keep disappointment. 56 million people a year keep disappointment. There were 2 older men who were talking about death. One said, wouldn't it be neat to know the time and place you're going to die? The other guy said, what good would that do? The other man said, just wouldn't show up. I know to some of y'all that felt like the SAT. I really didn't mean for it to be that. I just thought that would be a good moment to breathe and laugh a little bit. I didn't mean for it to feel like a standardized test question. Yeah, the guy just said, I'm going to miss this one. National Geographic, about 5 more minutes and we're done. Human beings are the only living organism in the universe that knows they're going to die. According to National Geographic, human beings are the only living organism in the universe that know they're going to die. National Geographic was talking about an insect called the mayfly. Look it up when you get home, the mayfly. There's a female species of that mayfly called Dolana americana. Dolana americana. This female lives less than 5 minutes. She lives less, First Lady, than 5 minutes. Yet in the 5 minutes, she can manage to mate, consummate the relationship, and lay eggs before she dies. Look it up when you get home. Mayfly, look it up when you get home now. I don't want you to think I'm a genius. I study hard. And I don't take nobody else's credit, Coach. I think that is the most cheesiest thing you can do up here, is take somebody else's credit. The mayfly is a female species that's called the Dolana americana. This female lived less than 5 minutes. This is what I want you to get. Less than 5 minutes, Sister Tricker. But look at what she do in the time. It ain't wasting a second of her time. She mate in those 5 minutes, then she consummate the relationship, lay eggs before she die. She do all that in 5 minutes. You've been living 50 years. How are you using your time to ensure that I will be accepted by God? Mayfly. It's another creature now, because I kept going. National Geographic is amazing. There's another insect called the gall midget fly. The gall, Gall midget fly. It is born fully grown. Sound like some kids. Some of the kids. It is born fully grown in the morning and dies in the afternoon. The lifespan is so short, they don't ever get to eat their first or last supper. We all know we're going to die. We're just not certain how. Devin Willock, University of Georgia, 21-year-old football player, was celebrating the parade after we had won our second consecutive national championship last year. Thank you. It's hard to be around champions. They don't even want to look back and see all the Bulldogs in here, but we represented well, baby, let me tell you. See about 5 or 6 Bulldog. I'm not saying nothing wrong with your school. I can only tell you about what greatness looks like. He was 21 years old. They had just finished parade, and everybody was celebrating. And that later on that night, he went out with some people, and they had a good time. He was one of the most liked players on the team, Devin was. He was in the car with a young lady who worked in the athletic department, another football player in the back, and another young lady who also worked in the athletic department. Going to another party, having a good time, they started racing with somebody else, supposedly. He was thrown through the window in an accident. Devin died on the scene. Coach, all I ever heard about him was nothing but good things. All I read about him was nothing but good things. Not only was a good player, he was a good person. Good people die. Good people die too. It was tragic because he was definitely going to the NFL. His family had prepared for that all their lives. But that was their plan. God had a different plan. God's ways are not our ways, nor his thoughts are our thoughts. It was tragic. It was a travesty that Devin had to go on to glory. But that's how it is. I just pray that he was ready. As the old saints say, will you be ready when Jesus comes? They don't sing songs like that no more because those songs don't require you to have a certain optical. Just a little wooden floor and foot's pattern, but it meant something to those people. Will you be ready when Jesus comes? What it's really saying is, will you be ready for your acceptance or rejection from God? Because from the moment he went through that window and God called his life, at that moment he was no longer a part of his mother and father. He went before the real Father. And I pray in my heart that he had accepted Christ. But at that point, that's all we can do is pray. That was a young man that was doing well. I could have gave you some every day on the news of people that's not doing well. But I want to make the point that no one knows the time nor the hour that you'll be called. We just have to make sure that we continue to trust God, unchanging hands. Sin equals death, and death equals judgment. If you was in God's will when you died, you will still die, but you won't have judgment. I'm living, so when I die, there's a light of people waiting on me, saying, boy, we were rooting for you. I know it got hard sometime, and it looked bleak, Johnny, but you didn't give in. I know it looked sometimes like you didn't have an answer, but you stayed steadfast and unmovable. And out of resolving that issue, at that moment, you got something better. You got hope. You saw what faith can and will do. If you trust God with all your heart, Sister Tricka, all your mind and all your souls, he'll make your crooked road straight. He'll give you just what you're asking for, because there are some people in here who are asking for things money can't buy, sir, like peace. Peace can't buy you. Money can't buy you peace. I've tried it, coach, and you know what I did? The money made me more who I was. I didn't go and buy stuff for communion. I went and bought liquor and beer. And I had the earthly type of, y'all tripping, but it's the truth. It was the earthly type of communion that I was used to. And how I look back now and say, if I had to do all over again, and God say, you have. Because the day you were born again is the new beginning of your life. That's what I want to get to you today. Make a difference in your own life this morning while you yet live. I don't care what happened before you got to church. I don't care how you felt when you first came in here. None of that matters. What matters is these next 2 minutes right here as we stand.
You've just had an experience with champions, and we are so glad that you tuned in today. Let's continue to honor God through our commitment to give. There are 4 ways to give. You can give online via Cash App at $Champions for Christ. Next, you can give online at www.championsforchristim.org. Lastly, you can give during service or on our mobile app available in the Apple and Google Play stores. Please be sure to tune in each and every week to our online broadcast. Encourage others to tune in with you. Remember, we are champions because we are champions for Christ.